All right, at this moment, we want to talk about the police reforms, police vetting. And for us to be able to do this appropriately, we need to cross over to Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, to have that discussion with the National Police Service Commission Chairperson, Johnston Kavuludi. Chairperson, I bet and trust you can hear me. Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time. First things first, let's talk about police officer salaries. We are told that there are challenges when it comes to those who have degrees, those who have diplomas, and those who only have Form 4 documents in terms of how their pay is structured. Talk to us a bit about that and the disquiet it might be causing.
Thank you very much. I really want to say that there should never be any disquiet about the manner in which police officers' salary structure conforms to the structure of the entire public service. Firstly, it's important to note that there are police ranks, and the police ranks start at the very lowest, which is constable of police. And there is a salary attached to the constable of police. Similarly, a salary attached to a corporal, sergeant, as we move up the rank until we get to Inspector General of Police. So the salary is not based on an individual's qualifications. It is based on whether or not you belong to a certain rank. That is what dictates the salary scale in which you are expected to be. Now, there has been a little deviation, and this deviation was caused by the need to train police officers who have degrees. These police officers will normally be appointed as constables, and on the approval of the commission, yes, they'll be paid a special salary on the understanding that they will then go on to take a special inspectorate course that will lead them into being appointed to the rank of Inspector of Police. However, we discovered an anomaly recently in which, without the approval of the commission, some officers sneaked certificates and diplomas and degrees that had not met the approval of the commission. Noting that every employer must scrutinize and approve every payment, all that the commission was able to do was to say, we must stop any backdoor process in which certificates are introduced into the system. Okay. Any certificate that comes through must receive the approval of the commission. Fair enough. And a university degree must be a degree that comes from a university that is accredited to the higher education. In this case, they call it University Education. Fair enough, Chairperson. Board. Okay, allow me to interrupt you there. You have been on the record before stating that police should further their education. But if it is true that the police promote on using a different structure from the way corporates would work, do you think this current structure motivates the police to go back to school, to increase their education standards, etc.? Absolutely, it should motivate the police officers. What I want to tell you, Wahiga, is that there is no system in which every piece of paper is accepted. In Kenya, there is a system. Every university is accredited. Not every university degree counts in Kenya. Okay. And therefore, the Commission for University Education determines for us which university certificate qualifies for entry into our system. That's number one. Number two, even when that officer qualifies, which we really will continue to encourage them to do, it is not an automatic thing, and is always the case in the government, anywhere, that you make your application and you are requesting that you be placed in a certain job group or a certain rank because you have the following qualifications. Okay. That is what the commission is doing. All right, thank you. Let's switch gears now. Let's talk a little bit about a statement you recently made. You said, and I quote, that you backed the proposal to scrap the traffic department due to rampant corruption involving officers. This was a proposal, and the whole discussion started with Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i proposing the disbanding of the
the traffic department. My question to you is, guide us for your reasoning behind this and what you expect. Should it happen, then what can Kenyans expect in terms of who would take over if the traffic department is disbanded? Why did you make that statement?
Thank you very much. I want to tell you that when you see the Cabinet Secretary for Interior speak, he is speaking from a very informed position.
Okay.
And the informed position is this. The National Police Service, from time to time, evaluates its performance, its own processes and procedures. And certain procedures that relate to the human capital management are then brought to the Commission for approval. It is our responsibility in matters that touch on policy to advise the Cabinet Secretary, which we did. And so from that informed point of view, we found it necessary that we do not make traffic an elitist department of the police service. Because the tendency has been people find a way of getting into the traffic, but not for reasons of performance. It is not a secret anymore to anybody in Kenya that the traffic department has made tremendous contribution to making the police service appear like a very corrupt service.
That is correct.
Yet the truth is that most police officers are actually working in such a manner that is so admirable. Their image is being really run down by a few officers in the traffic department. And therefore, we have ensured that traffic is just another function of the police service, and the station commander should be in a position to deploy people on a day-to-day basis on the traffic function. This is the position.
Okay. And finally, I want to get your thoughts on some statistics. 4,347 police officers or so have been vetted from what I got from my research. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. 433 have failed this vetting. Can you tell us what challenges you faced going through this particular process, exposing what had previously been hidden in terms of how some police officers operate?
Thank you very much, Higa. I think we should really look at the vetting of police officers from a very positive perspective. The vetting was not intended to curb corruption or to unearth corruption.
What was
vetting of police officers is a process that is defined in the law, the purpose of which is to ensure that officers who transit and remain in the service from a police force pass the integrity test. They are considered suitable and competent to be retained based on their academic qualifications, professional qualifications, issues like their ability to respect human rights, and finally their financial probity. So through this vetting, we have been able to determine that the police service has got some of the best, most qualified persons in the public service.
Okay.
Holding very good credentials. And therefore we felt that this is useful because it helps us to advise the Inspector General on where these men and women should be deployed so that they can make a meaningful contribution to the security of this country.
Okay.
Secondly, we were able to determine where the weaknesses lie. For example, we've been able to determine that the traffic function has had a lot of weaknesses that have lent the police service into being considered a service that lacks integrity.
Yes.
And therefore, we have taken those positive measures to identify the persons that are making the name of the police service so negative. Now, we've had a lot of challenges, of course, because in the first place, it is not easy to deal with such a large number of people. And so far, as you can see, we've been able to vet all the officers from the top all the way down to Chief Inspector, which is the rank at which we are. We've vetted all the traffic police officers. Those who are left at the bottom are the very junior officers that will be much easier to handle. Okay. I want to put it like this. We must look at it from this perspective.
Okay.
In the traffic department, only about 12% of the officers were found culpable. The rest of them are doing a very fine job. Throughout the other services rendered by the police officers, only 4% of the officers ordinarily are found to be culpable. Not that we say we must reach that threshold, but after we finish a given lot, that is what we determine.
What are your, and just briefly answer this for me, what are your recommendations to ensure that the penalties that will be levied on this 12% or 4% are so visible and meaningful that anyone else in the police service who would consider going that way will be discouraged from doing so? Because I know you're saying only 12%, but that 12% is what makes headlines. That 12% is what Kenyans talk about when you ask them about traffic police or the police service.
I want to say this. We cannot recommend a penalty. The Commission has the final decision on its employees. We are the agency that employs police officers.
Okay.
And the 12% are officers who have been removed from the service. Removal means they no longer continue to be police officers. If that is not deterrent enough, I don't know what will be. Secondly, when we see, apart from removal, officers have committed offenses that call for prosecution, then we recommend to ESCC that those officers be further investigated with a view to taking action against them based on the criminality that we may have discovered.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The National Police Service Commission Chairperson, Johnston Kavuludi, for sparing a couple of minutes of his time in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu to speak to us. Thank you so much, Chairperson, for your time.